And you think you're credible today? You don't think that your mind's just a little bit wrong? Dude, you've proved it. Now you've just lost your gun rights. In the TRO, I'm pretty sure this is where I take the gun away from you. Because you'll use it because you don't even know the crimes you're trying to stop or describe or anything. So we're at 40. If two ranchers had a dispute.
Let me we only have limited time.
I understand, but this is the fastest explanation.
Ask your question.
My question
Don't explain.
is, can I be obstructed from filing a proper complaint under Court Rule 4 to the clerk's office? The explanation and the reasoning is this. I have a right in order to file a grievance. They do not have the ability in order to change the title or demand that I file it under a civil when it is not a civil.
Well, let me pause it. What do you want today?
I would like to close in the fashion of the court, the TRO. My intentions are simple. I don't think that he can present the court for any reason to have contact with me. He doesn't like me. I don't like him. I think that that may be a rather speedy issue. The issue that I have found, though, is that...
I'm going to pause again. I'm just going to ask you very direct questions. Are you asking me to issue a permanent protection order protecting you from Mr. Archibald?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And I
Let's
don't
stop
know whether
there.
or not to include the red line laws concerning his guns and to have them taken away temporarily. I'll leave that at the discretion of the court.
Are we going to allow all of this, Your Honor? Like, I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to be rude, but this seems to be going to some weird far off land of other things other than whether or not I threaten.
Well, I'm trying to figure that out. So we're going to address the permanent protection order request right now. That's what we're scheduled for. That's the only motion I have in front of me. If you would like to file any other type of cases against Mr. Archibald, you can certainly do that.
I understand, but the actual first fault begins with this case. So I have to stick with the first fault. That's L1. So.
Okay. So last time I granted you a continuance because you needed more time to prepare.
Yes, sir.
Are you now prepared to proceed?
I am prepared in order to proceed. Okay. I have already admitted to evidence, I believe, 4 videos.
Hang on.
Okay. Yes, sir.
We'll talk about that in a moment. So let me go back over the requirements so you're both clear on what needs to happen here today.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Archibald, first of all, let me check in with you. Are you ready to proceed to your hearing today?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Now, Mr. Frederickson, you will need to prove to me by a preponderance of the evidence that acts occurred justifying the issuance of the temporary protection order. And what I mean by that is you have to prove to me that at some point in the past, Mr. Archibald placed you in imminent danger to life or health. That's element 1. Element 2, you have to prove that those acts are likely to continue in the future or that Mr. Archibald would intimidate or retaliate against you.
Okay, so the first element that I have to show is that I was in imminent danger.
At some point in the past, you do not have to show you currently.
The second element, sir?
That he will continue to engage in the behavior.
Will. Now, can I also use the word intend to?
If you can, sure.
Okay, will or intend to continue.
Or that he would intimidate or retaliate against you.
I believe I have the ability in order to show all 3 prongs, Your Honor. I can do that in a 2-minute excerpt. Now, there is over 2 hours of video that is submitted to the court.
So based on the agreement you two reached last time, I reviewed that video. The video that I have. The video you submitted with your temporary protection order.
I would like to also admit to the court that the evidence that is contained online has been tampered with. In the videos that I had given you,
only reviewed
I understand
what you provided.
What I'm saying is that the record has been tampered with. In the videos,
he's talking about stuff that's non-relevant, and he can't prove that anything has been tampered with, and I don't think that we should continue to hear this out. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Prove it to the court in real time, Your Honor.
You're saying evidence you submitted to me has been tampered with?
Has since been tampered with, because I
What do you mean by
wouldn't have
since?
been able to capture. What he did was he tried to make it so I could not capture the text by removing his text in a YouTube broadcast. And you can go in.
How's that relevant to me?
I'm sorry?
How's that relevant to me?
Well, the problem is I was lucky enough in order to have recorded that text, and it was immediately later changed. And
But why is that relevant? If I
the reason why it is relevant is it shows that he is following me, has chased me down to the grocery store, and is seeking me out in the grocery store,
Right.
which is contained
That's
in the video that shared the text. Since then, those texts have been altered, and I can show you that. I tried to recapture that, and they had been altered.
but I can only consider the evidence that has already been submitted in the case.
I understand.
So this alteration
No,
seems
I'm just
irrelevant.
bringing it to the, it may be relevant or irrelevant because I was able to capture that element.
All right,
which
Mr.
was
Fredrickson,
My
stop.
request.
Just let me get through the advisements. Let me talk
I'm
to both
sorry.
you
Oh,
and
I can
Mr.
go.
Archibald,
Okay, go
and
ahead.
then I will swear you in, and then you can present your evidence. Let me just get through the threshold. All right. Let me make some findings. So first of all, the court finds it has subject matter and personal jurisdiction. So I heard testimony from Mr. Fredrickson. I heard testimony from Mr. Archibald. I also viewed 2 videos that were submitted to me. Based on that, I find that Mr. Archibald is a YouTube content creator. It appears Mr. Fredrickson is some kind of content creator as well. I'm unclear as to the nature of that because I didn't receive a lot of testimony as to it. The video that was provided to me makes it clear to me that Mr. Archibald he's live streaming this, he's creating content. Arguably, he's creating comedic content. I think reasonable minds can differ as to what is comedy, and this might not be the content I would consume, but I don't know that it rises to anything more than that.
May I have clarification?
I'm not done
in
yet.
the fact
I
that
might clarify here in a minute.
Mr.
Mr. Fredrickson, you need to stop interrupting me. You've been interrupting Mr. Archibald. You just need to wait for a moment.
Apologize, Your Honor. Forgive me.
What I'm uneasy about in this case is, Mr. Fredrickson, you're asking me to restrict, that's why I'm asking about earlier. You're asking me to restrict Mr. Archibald's freedom of movement. You're asking me to deprive him. You've now withdrawn a request, but I've heard this whole testimony with your request to deprive him of his Second Amendment rights. Based on what I've heard, that you're both creating content, I think there are some First Amendment implications as well. And what I see here is 2 content creators who, like I said earlier, there's some bad blood based on the content you've created. That gives me pause. And Mr. Archibald, I will say, I don't know that I'm supportive of some of the things you were doing in this video. I certainly wouldn't encourage you to continue to confront or antagonize people the way you did Mr. Fredrickson. I think you certainly may have placed the public in fear when you're walking around pointing at him, yelling pedophile. However, me disagreeing with that is a far cry from me making a legal ruling that placed Mr. Fredrickson or the public in imminent danger. But I don't know that I even need to make that determination because I find Mr. Archibald's statement that he's leaving the state credible. He clearly answered your question that he's done filming you or done confronting you. And if I find that statement credible, then I can't find that you've established the second element that you need to establish. So I'm primarily basing my ruling here today on that you've not established the second element because Mr. Archibald credibly testified that he would no longer contact you, that he would no longer film you, and that he's leaving the state. Now, Mr. Archibald, I will simply say this. I have no reason to doubt your statement. I am denying the request for a permanent protection order. This case will close today. However, if you engage in this kind of behavior again towards Mr. Fredrickson, Mr. Fredrickson can file this motion again, and I certainly would consider that an aggravating circumstance that you came into court under oath, said you wouldn't do this again, and then do it again. Having given that warning, I have no reason to believe you would do that, but I wanted that on the record.
Okay.
So based on that, as I said, I'm denying your request, Mr. Frederickson. Do you have any questions about my ruling? And before you ask, you have the right to appeal my decision. You don't have the right to argue about my decision, and you have the right to appeal within 21 days.
You asked me if I had a question, though.
Yes.
Would that include the nature of your decision? Example of, I get a case, normally they have a description of how they arrived at that description. Can I ask a specific question within that?
May.
How is it that stating clearly that he will punk me out wherever he goes, that we do not have a departure date for Mr. Archibald, whether that is a week from now or a month from now or next year? The other problem that I have is,
So you can ask me a
if I,
question, but
well,
you're
that's the
not doing-
question. That is the question is how does the statements within the surveillance footage, not the content, because the content was for entertainment purposes only, does not fall into the category that from point A, which is today, to point B, that he leaves this area. And I don't know if there is an adjustment that you can make or a stipulation, because I do not want him to show up at my house today, which is possible. He's enthusiastic. He will go with the guidelines of this court very, very quickly and
Well, here-
perhaps exceed that.
I will simply repeat this. I understood his testimony, and I stand by this to say that he will no longer contact you. He will no longer film you. If he does, I'm the magistrate who reviews applications for protection orders. If he comes to your house this afternoon, completely contradicting what he just told me, then you file another motion. And again, I would find that aggravating circumstance, because that means that his statement was not credible. Right now, I'm finding his statement credible. And if I find the statement credible, I understand you disagree with me. I recognize that.
I still don't know where the knife was in the videos, Your Honor, that he testified to, that I was sharpening underneath a bridge with my dog.
Okay, Mr. Frederickson, we're done.
I understand.
All right.
There
Mr.
is
Archibald,
a administrative question for the court that is,
hang on. Mr. Archibald, do you have any questions for me?
No, Your Honor. Thank you for hearing this mess of a case, and have a good day, sir.
Thank you. And hang tight one moment. You had an administrative question?
it would not involve him.
Then I can't answer it.
It does.
I'm not
All right.
engaged in
The
proceedings.
administrative question is dealing with the clerk. I have to report to the clerk or to the court. And I was going to make a administrative judicial inquiry concerning some rules in the court and in the clerk's office. It's very specific only because it was raised in this case, in the filing of this case. I am basically obstructed from filing a felony complaint, which is a legal impossibility.
You cannot file a felony
But
complaint.
that is a legal impossibility according to the Constitution. I have.
Well, I'm not going to engage with you. That's outside.
Thank you.
All right,
Your
Mr.
Honor. I'm
Archibald,
sorry.
at this time, I'm going to let you go.
Thank
Here
you,
at
Your Honor. I
this-
appreciate you letting him
Yeah,
know that.
I
He's
told
been
you,
trying anyway.
didn't
Thank you,
directly
sir.
involve him.
And in that case, I can't have a discussion with you. I can't give you legal advice.